Hello, I'm Siobhan Heanue. Welcome to the Culture Quarter, where we take a look at Australia's cultural icons and collections. 100 years ago, the famous ballet company, the Ballet Russe, was founded. It was a global sensation and it toured Australia in the 1930s. One of its principal ballerinas, Anna Volkova, is still alive and she's living in Sydney. Born in 1917, she fled with her family to Paris to escape the revolution. And now, at the ripe old age of 94, she shares her memories with Kate Evans.
I didn't know anything about ballet. I never thought about ballet, never even imagined that one day I will be a dancer.
But Anna Volkova did become a dancer, starting lessons as a child with the best Russian ballet teacher in Paris.
She wanted me for a week, and after that she will decide whether I will stay or not. But my parents were so poor, they couldn't, they lost everything when they left Russia. So they were just stateless, moneyless, very, very true refugees. Well, she said it doesn't matter, she can come as a free student. So that was the beginning of my dancing career, of my dancing life. And after that, I couldn't look at anything else. I just want the ballet.
The avant-garde dance company Les Ballets Russes had been touring to great acclaim for 2 decades, but by the early 30s, director Diaghilev had died, and another Russian, Colonel Vasily de Bazile, reformed the company, recruiting young dancers from the Paris studios.
One day, after a lesson, a whole group of people came to watch the class. They must have been quite important because Madame was all in a flutter. And one of them was Colonel de Bazile, who was the director. And after the end of the class, de Bazile said, "Would you like to join the company?" I was 15.
Anna Volkova travelled with the company across Europe, as well as to the US and to Australia, visiting in 1938 and again in 1939 to 40.
My family was against me going because it was so far away. But I was hooked on the ballet. I just wanted to go. And, when I arrived, not 1 minute, not one day was I disappointed.
During those tours, the company stayed for months on end, so there was time for play as well as work. This amateur footage shows some of the dancers on Sydney's Bungan Beach in around 1939. And this is Anna Volkova.
The 2 times I came to Australia with the company, I will never forget. It was my best memories of how much fun and yet good work and response from the audience we had. It was something new for the Australians, you must say that. It was completely new, with not only ballet and dancing, but with the music and scenery, the costumes, the marvelous costumes that we had. I had a favorite costume because it was my favorite part, and in the coq d'or, the golden cockerel, and the costume was lovely, but it had a very heavy golden tail, and that was difficult to get used to in all the jumps and the pirouettes they were all required.
This footage shows Anna Volkova dancing the cockerel in Melbourne in the late 30s. But the highlight of her dancing days was an encounter with royalty in London.
Now that we have seen that horrible film about the ballet, with the ballerina going quite mad, well, I will speak of much nicer times of the ballet when in London at Covent Garden, we all heard that there was a special performance in aid of some charity, and the Queen and the King will be at the performance, and that they will come backstage for a light supper with all the artists afterwards. And the King was just crowned not long before that, George VI. So we were all very curious to see the King and the Queen so close to us, and we were all peering through the curtain. They came up the rickety stairs that we had, up the stage, and I had to pinch myself. I'm with the King and the Queen, But how I met my husband, I think that's a nice story too. We were leaving Australia after a second tour of the ballet here on the ship, and the company was very tired. I didn't leave my cabin for about 4 or 5 days. All I did was sleep and eat. One day, fourth or fifth day, I decided to show myself, on the deck and go to the purser's office to see if there is any mail for me. And I was getting there. There was a young man standing in front of me, and I heard him say, "Any mail for Jim Barnes?" And I said, "And please look if there is any mail for Anna Volkova." And he turned around and he said, "My goodness, here you are at last." He said some friends of ours, mutual friends, told him to look me up. But he said, wherever I went, I never could see you. Of course, I was asleep all the time. And he said, now we have met. I hope we'll see each other a lot. And he was gone. And that's how I met my future husband.
She refused the Australian's first offer of marriage, and they didn't see each other for 5 years, while he fought in the Pacific and she continued to dance.
We were in South America with a company in Brazil, and I received a telegram from him. He was in the commandos, by the way, during the war, and it came from some islands in the Pacific. The telegram took a month to get to me, and it said, "War or no war, would you consider coming and marry me?" And this time I said yes.
The couple settled in Sydney, then in Boorowa in rural New South Wales. It was the start of 60 years of married life and the end of Anna Volkova's dancing career.
If you're into bonnets or bennets, then the annual Jane Austen Festival is definitely the place to be. It's an event devoted to the splendour of Regency England. And with Mr. Darcy's in short supply these days, there's always fierce competition to be the belle of the ball. Vivian Nunes went along.
It is a truth universally acknowledged that serious Jane Austen fans must be in want of more than just words.
We've just always been in love with 1, Pride and Prejudice, and 2, Jane Austen.
200 years after her 6 books were published, a trip back in time to the world on the page.
It's more than just the Jane Austen novels, as well as they are loved. We cover all facets of the life in those days.
The 4th annual Jane Austen Festival offered readers a taste of the Regency era.
It's a good excuse to have nice clothes.
This is a Napoleonic coat.
After bonnet making and hairstyling, it was time for the ball. In Austen times, dancing was the primary means of courtship in a society ruled by customs and class.
Music for a ball, of course, just lifts people up and makes them want to dance.
As the Bennett girls will tell you, dancing is a certain step towards falling in love. But not all these modern-day Miss Bennets were looking.
I've got a Mr. Darcy already. I wouldn't consider myself someone who's looking for a Mr. Darcy. I love the dynamic of the relationship, but reading the book, I still go, you know what, you're still kind of a proud twat at the end of the day.
A debate that's sure to continue for centuries.
Magnificent! What a...
Hidden away in a room at the Australian National University is a little-known collection of historic pianos. The first piano to come to Australia arrived with the First Fleet, but now many of the most historic instruments are being snapped up by overseas buyers.
Every instrument in this room has its own voice and its own history. Concert pianist and music professor Geoffrey Lancaster is their guardian.
There are 900 pianos in Australia that I've identified of enormous national or international cultural significance, including the fifth oldest piano in the world and the first piano that came out with the First Fleet.
He's the ultimate piano man, in charge of this collection at the Australian National University.
Australia's largest public collection of working historical pianos.
The oldest is this English square piano from the 1780s.
It was designed ostensibly to enable young ladies to accompany themselves singing. It was portable, had a very sweet sound, as you'll hear.
The pianos have been donated or purchased, a couple picked up in country pubs, and some just saved from the scrap heap.
The worst case scenario for a lot of historical pianos is, oh, well, that's Aunt Maud's old piano, we don't need it anymore, we don't play, and it looks old and decrepit, we'll throw it out onto the dump.
Among the more unusual pieces, this replica harpsichord embellished with Australian scenes. The pianos just keep coming, and the university is running out of room. Because space and money is tight, much of Australia's musical heritage is now going overseas, especially to China, where it's very much in fashion.
They're buying up Western art, one could argue, in order to give themselves cultural credibility. And of course what's happened with the pianos in Australia is that Asia's largest piano museum on Gulanyu Island in Xiamen on the coast has now got pianos that are exclusively from Australia.
This is one battle that passion alone won't win.
Well, that's all.